So, turns out, people really like trains, huh? Hey everyone, it's Ollie from Mashup Games. I'm making a cozy exploration game where you travel around a little island on your own steam train. First off, thank you all so much for your support. I'm really happy that my game has resonated with so many of you people, and it's just really got me more motivated to make more. Now, if you're going to be making a game about driving a train, you need a steam engine, right? The world is full of locomotives of all shapes, sizes, and colours, so there's plenty of places for inspiration. But what I started with was, well, it was something. When I first had the idea of making a game about trains, it's fair to say I didn't really know anything about trains. My knowledge went as far back as my childhood memories of Thomas and Friends, so please forgive me a little bit when I show you my first engine model. For anyone saying using reference images is cheating, just show them this. I had absolutely no references for any of this model, and you really can tell. It's like I was just like, oh yeah, I know what a steam train looks like. I am steam locomotiveable. Jum jum. There's so much wrong with this model. The wheels are so far back that a gust of wind could knock it forwards. The funnel is way too fat. The cabin is too long, and it's got a horribly slanted roof. The buffers are tiny, but the worst part of this model, without a doubt, has to be the front. I mean, what are these? It's like I walked in on the train having a shower, like, those need to be covered up, or at least go to a doctor, they don't look right. After this heinous crime was committed, I decided to find some real life basis for whatever engine model I'm making next. And after some research, which is basically Google searching cool trains, I found the Peckerton Sons number 614 Bear. Or rather, I found an image of the Hornby model and I was like, oh, that looks really cool. I don't know what it is about this engine that I liked. Maybe it's because of how short and stubby it was, or maybe it was just purely because it was blue. Probably that. But might I say, without patting myself on the back too much, that this model I made is pretty good. At least leaps and bounds better than the first one, but that wasn't a very high bar to reach. And they even got to add in some more detail, like these side rods, these pipes, and the little whistle. Unfortunately, this model didn't stick for very long. I really liked it, but I didn't think it was quite what I was going for. What it comes down to essentially is that this engine felt a bit too industrial, which makes sense because this class of engine was often used in shunting yards and was nicknamed pugs for how short, stubby, and ugly they were. So on to the next attempt, and this time we're going small. Time to visit the world of narrow gauge. Narrow gauge is, in its simplest terms, when the rails on a railway are just a bit closer together. They're normally a lot cheaper to build and operate than standard gauge, and they're used in areas that are often a little smaller, tighter spaces, and have smaller engines working on them. Plus, since narrow gauge railways are a lot smaller in distance than standard gauge, it gives me a bit of an excuse to keep the scope of my world and my game quite small. And while there were loads of narrow gauge railways to look for, the one I went to was the Talyllyn. This slate quarry This Welsh slate quarry railway became railway. I keep saying railway or railway, which isn't good when I'm making a game called Railway Life. This Welsh slate quarry railway became the first ever railway to be preserved. And when I say the first ever, I mean literally the first ever in the world. This railway also had a certain person help them in the early preservation days. Wilbert Awdry, the creator of the Railway series and Thomas the Tank Engine. This is an interesting fact because if you look at the engines running on the Talyllyn, you'll notice that these are also these. Awdry wrote the Talyllyn engines into his fictional island of Sodor, so each engine from the Skarloey Railway has a real-life counterpart at the Talyllyn. And since I already have an affinity with the engines due to the show, I thought it would be a very good idea to choose one of these engines. And the one I chose is Sir Hayden. I did initially choose Sir Hayden down to aesthetics. I quite like engines with saddle tanks. But after doing a little bit of research, I found this engine had a really interesting history. There's another slate quarry near the Talyllyn called the Corris Railway. It used to have 4 engines working on it, a Tattoo class and 3 Falcon classes, which by the way, Falcon, such a badass name for an engine. 2 of the Falcon engines later ended up being scrapped, and the 3rd was rebuilt using parts of all of 3, becoming some kind of Falcon Supreme. When the Corris Railway eventually closed down, the Tattoo and Falcon was purchased and moved over to the Talyllyn, where they were renamed as Edward Thomas and Sir Hayden. Now, the Corris Railway has since reopened under preservation, and whilst it would have been nice for them to have their old engines back, these engines had become so ingrained in part of the history of the Talyllyn that they decided just to rebuild new engines. And they've just recently created their own new Falcon model, which runs on their railway. So not only have I chosen an engine class which has such a strong history in two railways, the Talyllyn and the Corris, it's literally at the moment the newest steam engine in the world. Though it was by chance, I think it's actually quite fitting and even a little symbolic that I'm using such a modern engine in this modern game. And so, with a new engine used for inspiration, I created a new model. Basing the proportions off this train stamp I found online, it looks pretty similar proportion-wise to the real-life engine. Though the model is bare bone and lacking quite a lot of details, as I'm wanting to save all that for later. One notable difference from this model to the real-life counterpart is that I've removed the back of the cabin, is I wanted the idea of you being able to just hop on the engine and then move from the engine to your cabin while driving the train. If I go back on my early footage of making this game, you can see that this is the engine that I'm using for a lot of testing of the train traversal and the track building. But in the end, this model did get usurped later on. I found the engine a bit too long, which doesn't really fit the kind of quick maneuverability gameplay I want to have in the train. I also felt the cabin was a bit too low down, like you can easily fall off it onto the grass, or you'll have to step down from the platform onto it, which didn't really seem right to me. And so, with some more changes, I'm going to introduce you to the newest model, Sir Hayden 2.0. Shorter boiler, taller cabin, taller funnel, and now with more details. The wheels have piston arms, you've got these pipes, these bars, whatever these are meant to be, and of course a whistle. Is this the final model? No. There's still some things I would like to add still, like lamps, nameplates, maybe some more details in the texturing, and basically anything in the cabin, because it doesn't even have a firebox at the moment. But essentially, this is the type of engine I'm going to go for. The real-life engine also has a little tracking wheel at the back, which I don't know if I'm going to add or not. I don't know. Oh, and of course you can change the colour of your engine. And so that's how I ended up with the engine you're going to be driving in the game. In the future, I would love to be able to add more engines, like maybe a Hunslet Festiniog Railway engine, probably another Talyllyn engine, maybe even some kind of custom engines inspired by a lot of standard gauge railways. But I have to be realistic, I'm a solo developer and I'm making this game in my own free time outside of a full-time job, so there are probably things that would take higher priority, like, I don't know, a game world. But if you've liked this video, then please like and subscribe. And by the way, go wishlist Railway Life on Steam. But that's all from me. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.